I must admit that I am more fascinated in why you believe things, how you believe things, than what you believe. That's the most interesting to me. It's not the, the subject matter, but what's around the subject matter. I don't care as much about God as I do why you believe in God. I don't care enough. I don't care about atheism. What I care about is why you are an atheist. How do you believe things? How do you take information presented, and how did you come to that way of thinking? We're going to be talking about a number of things. Tucker dissing Darwin, one of the best stories ever because they are circling. He is a genius. I don't think he realizes it, but he's doing something that's very, very good. Tucker needs a lot of help, and he needs a lot of help. And when I mean help, I mean he's not devilish enough. He doesn't know enough about how do I say it? He doesn't know enough about wrestling, the work. He's new at this. He really is. He really, because he's into this for different. He came from Fox and is now finding his way into this platform. Others like Rogan and Lex Friedman, they came from really not. I shouldn't say nothing, but they created their world on broadcasting platforms. Tucker is a different story. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Joe Rogan now dissing the moon landing. This is brilliant. I just did one right now, which is going to air later, and it's probably one of the most fascinating issues because the point is missed. It's nothing to do with the moon landing. I'll explain that. Trump's immunity claim, this New York joke of a trial. But I'm going to start off with something which is so fascinating to me is the lack of free speech on college campuses and how nobody is saying anything and how many people are clapping the fact that they are beating the shit out of, pardon my French, that's our expression. In our culture, when you say, hey, do you know what the cops did? Yeah, the cops beat the shit out of him. That's not scatological. That is a phrase that we use to define a very serious, aggressive form of beating. Did you see some of these girls thrown around like rag dolls by the cops in Emory or whatever in Texas? Did you see this? Do you like this? Are you in favor of this? Do you hate the radical college elites? Is that it? Do you think that's effective? You don't see a problem with that? We'll talk about that in a moment. And a friend of mine, in one of the most fascinating pieces of, I don't know what the word is, one of the most fascinating pieces of response to this from somebody who is prototypically liberal and progressive, but yet sees things. It's the subject of my today, and every day I dedicate it to a Now, before we begin, let me first thank you for being with us. Let me tell you to make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the like button and all of those things that you are aware of in order for you to follow us. And make sure you're still subscribed because some people are telling us that they're unsubscribed for reasons I don't understand. Okay? So that's very important. Very, very critical. Now listen carefully before we begin. I'm going to make this very, very quick. When it comes to emergency food, I have always thought that this is probably one of the most important things that we could ever talk about. But somewhere along the line, I don't know why, but the notion of prepping got involved. People who prepared, who anticipated, who prepared for and took insurance out for this type of event, I thought made sense. But no, they were mocked. Because people thought, well, if ever there's any kind of a breakdown, first of all, this is the United States. That doesn't happen here. We don't have like lockdowns. Really? We don't have shelter in place. Really? We don't have stores closed, gasoline stations closed because of malware. We're never going to have an EMP, pulse. Really? No, not at all. Not at all. And if you had to, people thought, oh, I could put together something like this if I had to. Because I have this, what you see right here. I have this in my larder, my cupboard, my pantry. I've got this. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. Well, right now there is a deal, a 4-week emergency food supply kit, where you can save $50, 16 varieties of food, up to a 25-year shelf life. But this is just a starter kit. This will just get you started. Breakfast, lunches, dinners, drinks, snacks, packed in 2 rugged buckets, ammo buckets and the like. It weighs 31 pounds each. And this is the time for you to go to preparewithlionel.com. Preparewithlionel.com. Sorry, it makes complete and total sense. Preparewithlionel.com. I don't have to explain to you why emergency food makes sense. Okay? Okay. Now listen to this. I want to shock, and I will never ever betray a friend. I will never ever betray anybody. I never talk about people that I know. Things that could be subject to embarrassment. Who knows? Maybe embarrassed. Maybe knowing me is embarrassing. But I said, can you believe what is happening? Can you believe what is happening on the college campuses? Now, let me see if I can explain this to you. First, if you look at what is happening at our college campuses and see, and if you can look and see students, granted, silly, wearing their nose ring and their tats with their silly hats. Remember wavy gravy? Well, that was different. That was Woodstock. Oh, okay. Remember, hey man, well that was different. That was the 60s. Oh, okay. What about this? What about Woodstock? Well, that was silly. What about all of the protesters? Well, those were hippies. And you see, we look at these folks now with almost loving history. The hippies were, oh. Now I wasn't in the hippie. I wasn't really in the hippie mode. I mean, I was like in 69, I was 11. So I kind of remember I was almost a teenager. I was 13 in 71, which was, by the way, the 70s were the best period of time. So I kind of remember this, and I always looked up to those folks. Remember when you were a kid, did you have stuff on your wall? Do kids have stuff on their wall? I had a big peace sign. I had Chicago posters. Chicago always gave you posters and iron on. Chicago gave you the best albums. But I had Chicago, Carnegie Hall had posters and a peace sign and a black light. And I was into this sitar music and iron butterfly. And, that was because that was a part of that thing. And the people who protested, Ohio, tin soldiers and Nixon coming. Remember Kent State, the National Guard, which is what people want to be done today. Come on, people now, shine on your brother. Everybody get together. Peace, love, the peace train is going. It was wonderful. Not now. Nope. This is different. Excuse me. You are pro-Hamas. You're not into peace. You're not. This has nothing to do with Gaza. This is about Hamas. So anyway, I'm thinking to myself, that's interesting. That's interesting. So there's nothing at all. 35,000. Look, it happens. You want to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs. Yeah. But it's Hamas's fault. And plus, we hate these people. We hate these elites. We hate and it's funny. It's killing the left because they're thinking, damn it. They're kind of us, but not really. They're saying, sorry, you're on your own here. When it comes to Israel, Gaza, you're on your own. Right, Rachel Maddow? Mum's the word. Rachel Maddow, she ain't saying nothing. She'll talk about Trump. It is hands off. Sorry. Isn't that interesting? What happened with this? What happened? Does anybody care at all about Gaza? Nope. Nothing? Nope. I watch nothing. When I say watch, my world, I don't watch TV, but my world is for the most part YouTube and online and platforms. And I'm watching the universities in Gaza. I mean, there's no forget people being thrown up, obliterated, hospitals, whatever. Is that does that enter your mind at all? Well, they ask for it. They asked for it. This is what, we told them, hey, you better stay away from that Hamas. And in their mind, they're saying, I wipe my hands of it. Well, here's the best one I want to share with you. And I don't want to get too much into this because a friend of mine, very smart. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to go into what he does, but if I told you what he did, you'd be surprised. He tells me in a text, this is the best one ever. And I'm going to try to. And he writes, he says, he describes, he's perplexed that students would be advocating for a force of evil, Islam, Hamas, Islam, that doesn't respect females, free speech, religious freedom, or reproductive freedom. How would these protesters, for example, protest in Iran at a Hamas group meeting in Iran, which would be kind of interesting? And then what about, can you say clitoral amputation, clitoridectomies, Elon Omar? And I thought, jaw. What? Clitoral amputation? What? What? This is a subject matter. How about in what year was My Lai? I always, Pinkville. My Lai was I don't say it's my favorite. My Lai Hirsch. My Lai was 1968. I remember that. I was 10. I was very hip. Very hip. I knew all about that stuff. Vietnam was every night. Every night we'd see who died in your town. Imagine in My Lai, I don't even know the number of it. Might have been, the number of them. It could be hundreds. It's hard to say. More than 500 people were slaughtered. 500 in the My Lai massacre, including young girls and women who were raped and mutilated before being killed. This is no kidding. This is no kidding. This is no kidding. There was no doubt about that. Remember Cali and Medina and the Charlie Company? Okay, 500. 500. People were just dead. They said, what is this? And you saw those people, didn't look like 500. That was just one ditch. There were ditches and people, they cleared these. They said, we're going to go out that day and we're going to just open. We're going to do to them. Sound familiar? If you're there, you are presumed to be the enemy. American soldiers, Americans, John Wayne, the red, white, and blue. Okay. We did this. America was horrible. Can you imagine if I then said, do you know what those Viet Cong do to the women in the, wait a minute, what? Do you know what they do? Do you know what they do? What the NVA does, what Ho Chi Minh does? Do you know what about the American soldiers they've got our POWs or whatever it is? You see, the issue is two things. Number one, I always want to mollify. I always want to shut down I want to give you something to justify your feelings over. I want you to say, well, that's the way that is. Look at the way we're treating black people. Look at the way we're treating slaves. Well, you know what? We gave them civilization. They worked outside. You ever hear that one? You ever hear that? People would say, slavery. Well, it's not our fault. We wouldn't have had slavery had they not sold us the slaves. Oh, okay. Is that what you're saying? Well, okay. I'm not sure about that. Well, I don't know. We always try to think of something. So this friend, good friend, says, what about clitoral amputations? What about genital mutilation? What about the fact that remember that gays are thrown off of buildings? And I said, wait a minute, hold it. I didn't dare tell him the fact that some of the facts or the facts as alleged of October the 7th have been disputed in terms of the amount of savagery and bestial treatment. Some of this has been debunked by other people. I didn't even dare bring that up. And most people say, what are you talking about? So let me go back again. Issue number one, do college people have the right to protest? Yes. Yes. Now, it's a private school, but I think, yes. And if they want to, beat a drum or whatever it is, do they have, yes. Do they have the right to be a pain in the ass? Yes. Are they stupid? A lot of them are stupid. The cause may not be stupid, but they're stupid. Or maybe they're saying it the wrong way, or I don't know, whatever. But nobody's talking about that. They're talking about the fact that these people, well, I thought I heard it all, but now they're saying, how are these people actually standing up for Islam? I said, oh my God. This kind of backwards, barbaric religion with these crazy people who want to genitally mutilate. I don't. This is fascinating. Listen to what I'm saying. I know you're not going to hear me because this is too easy to miss. This is what humans do. You can look at something and say, do you see this? Yeah. Is this the cup from Lionel merch? Yeah. Prove it not. What? Show me that this is something else, that this is a 38 Packard. Can you do that? Can you do that? My job is to take this, that you say, no, this is a mug. It's a Lionel Nation mug. It's got the coffee stains. Shows the stains really well, by the way. It kind of gives you an idea of when you it really shows you've been drinking coffee. That's what we do. We always change the reality of something. We just do it. And whenever we get into a group, that's when we are at our most dangerous. Oh my God. You do know that. I love the idea of martial arts. I don't want to do it myself. I've had such an infinitesimally small introduction during one particular period of my life, probably as much as I did golf, fishing. Like I tried my hands and stuff, very short life. But you don't have to eat the whole egg to know it's rotten. But I remember one time talking about martial arts. And there's things like, for example, there's the stuff you do in a dojo, and there's the stuff that people do on battlefields. That's the martial art. That stuff will get you indicted because that's just killing the other people. But one of the things that people say, and one of the ideas has always been, get people out of a crowd. If you're going to do something, you're in trouble if you're being advanced by a lot of people. If you could somehow get away from the crowd or get your assailant out of the crowd, away from his or her backup, you're going to be much better. You've got one person to deal with, not 5 or 10. The worst thing that can happen to logic is when the logic goes into a group. Do you know why people meet in churches and masses and ceremonies? for groupthink, to lose themselves, to become a part of the group. What is a rally? A rally is when you lose your individual sense of self and you become a part, you become subsumed under the rubric of the group. Then you lose yourself altogether. You clap in unison. Take somebody who says, yeah, I like Trump. Take them to a Trump rally. It's a different story because you're a part of the group. Why do you think seeing a movie in a theater is so much better? Because you're part of the group. You're part of the group that is seeing what's happening. You're part of this thing. Whenever you allow people, if ever you want to see idiocy, put them in a group. That's what's happening right now. Put them in a group. The people who are trying themselves to hate these students or whatever it is must realize that it's because they're in that group that's the most telling. And they will never report. They will never say, for example, this group of people here, they're not on the campus. They're somewhere else. This group of people is one on the whatever. Have you ever seen those Trump rallies? Remember the old days of Trump rallies, and they'd always, NBC would take a film crew. And there'd be somebody out there, and they'd always say, oh, it's a nice person. He's got a MAGA hat. Oh, and there's the lunatic. Remember January 6th? Did you ever see the people on January 6th who were just there, who just were doing nothing? But then you got the guy with the eye patch and the Valkyrie helmet, and that is what they look at. We are committed. We hate these people because they're in a crowd, and they always act crazy when they're in a crowd, at least according to us. We don't understand what is going on. We don't understand what they're complaining about, and we laugh at them, and we mock them, and we are killing the First Amendment. And Americans, per usual, just like they did with Julian Assange, just like they did with Snowden, they don't understand the rudiments of who we are. And they are beating the shit, pardon my French, out of, did you see some of these people slammed to the ground? And the worst part is these sadistic bastards that we have, they love it. I think they get off on it. I really do. There's something weird about this. I'm not saying all policemen, but some policemen are weird. They're a little strange. They're into little sadism here. Think I'm kidding? Think I'm kidding? There's something about this. So I sit back and I'm saying, wow. They don't get it, dude. So anyway, so what did it to do? Right before I got on with you, I talked to a friend of mine. He says he views Islam as this religion and culture of these backwards people who eat with sticks and squat and wear funny hats. And remember the old, I guess they pay tribute to gods with a million arms. No, it's Hinduism, whatever. They don't know Hindu. They just look at these Elon Omar. You got that funny hat on, don't you? You got that funny hat. Well, what about a yarmulke? What about a kippah? Well, that's different. What do you mean? Wow, that's different. But a kufi, that's different. Look at them with their what's it called? That oh god, forget everything's a burqa to these people versus a hijab versus a, what is it called? The Palestinian cloth. Oh, that's stupid. But a kente cloth was great. That was during the George Floyd thing, and that's when Nancy Pelosi and Jerry Nadler, who couldn't even get on his knees. Anyway, remember that? Oh, that was okay. That was different. But this, what's it called? You know what I'm talking about? The Palestinian Arafat wore that. Anyway, that's because but a payas or a tzitzis or any kind of if it's Jewish, that's different. That's okay. You and your crazy veils. What about Mother Teresa? That was different. It's the weirdest thing. This is, ladies and gentlemen, this is a Rorschach test for us. What's the matter? We're Americans. This is free speech at a college campus. Yeah. I don't think half of these people know what the hell they're talking about. But that's not up to me to decide. I'm not here to say, I'm sorry. Lionel doesn't, I speak to myself in the third person. Lionel doesn't think this is, you don't really understand this. Because you see, October the 7th, that invalidated any speech you have. I don't want to hear about anything. Nothing occurred before October the 7th. Nothing happened after. Now, remember, these have to be peaceful. They have to be, you can't incite, you can't target. We know that. That's the no shit obvious. Of course we understand it. Of course we know. So just understand what's happening. This is, you talk about xenophobia. And I know that Elon Omar, oh my gosh, she represents what is it? Was it Ethiopian? What is her she has this thing where she says, I'm going to she said, I'm going to speak for the Somali, Somali that's her focus. Okay. Well, if the good folks of Minneapolis, if that's what you want to vote for, I can't. Who is it? Keith Ellison, or not Ellison? Who was a fellow who swore on a Quran? Oh, he went crazy. Rashida Tlaib. Let's see how these folks are marginalized. And remember, the people who are loving this the most are going to use as a yes, you're right. Shut them down. Shut them down. Shut those people down. Shut them down. Oh, I didn't know you were either anti-Palestinian or pro-Israel. Oh, I'm not. I'm anti-free speech. And I want to shut down everybody. Shut down PETA. Shut down this. Shut down anti-vaxxers. Shut down COVID and science deniers. Shut down conspiracy theorists. I want everybody shut down. I don't care what it is. I don't want free speech. I don't want you saying anything about free. I don't want you ever saying anything about anything. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. I represent fascism and totalitarianism, and I'm going to destroy your country and your culture and your freedoms, and I'm going to use Fox News and MSDNC and the popular ideology because you're not asking the question, wait a minute. Do these people have the right to speak? Shut up. Okay. All right. Now we got something which is the next thing, which is very, very interesting. But before I do this, let me remind you of a couple of things here. This is important. I want to talk about a dear man who tried to speak about something very simple. This is a man who has one of the most effective, one of the most important companies in America, who was himself a podcaster, and he believes that elections were stolen. And I think he's being shut down. Why? Because people care about Trump? No, they just want free speech to be shut down. They don't want you to say anything about anything. It's not about Mike Lindell. It's not about Trump. It's about you. It's about your freedom to speak. So that's why I always say, this is why we're a MyPillow family. And don't forget, when you go to MyPillow.com, always use promo code Lionel. Well, it's time yet again to hail and salute our great friends at MyPillow.com. And if you use promo code Lionel, you get a free gift. No purchase necessary. I know, a free gift. Gifts are free. Okay, it's a tautology, so sue me. But listen to me and listen carefully. What are we talking about here? Down comforters, flannel sheets, Giza Dream bed sheets, MyPillow 2.0 body pillows, waffle blankets, couch and recliner pillows, sheets, slippers, percales. I'm not even done yet. Towels, quilts, bedspreads, mattresses, mattress covers, mattress toppers, linens, kitchen towels, bathrobes, pet blankets, bolster pillows, name it. Items to help you luxuriate and relax. And their monster sellers, slippers, my slippers, slip-ons, moccasins. Think about it. What do they do at MyPillow? What's their main goal? To make things real soft, plush, real comfy, or comfrey, as I say it. How perfect. So here's the link right now. Go to mypillow.com/Lionel. MyPillow.com, promo code Lionel or /Lionel, or call 800-645-4965. 800-645-4965. And watch how fast our good friend Mike Lindell answers the phone. MyPillow.com, promo code Lionel. Simply and absolutely the best. We have in this country this wonderful thing called the Constitution and some great discussions on presidential immunity. And Ketanji Brown Jackson was great in her oral arguments. Absolutely great. Some of the most interesting stuff you can imagine. And of course, people will not listen to her because she's black or she's appointed by Biden and she's a left. No, she has great stuff about presidential immunity. And people say, well, it's Trump. Trump should be immune. Should Biden be immune from everything? What? Should Joe Biden be immune? If Joe Biden is involved in some kind of criminal activity now to subvert the Constitution or to conspire with his awful spawn son, should he be likewise protected from? Well, that's different. Well, why is that different? Well, it's different because, you sure about that? See, that's the way people think in this country. They love to always say things like, I like it for thee and not for me. I'm kind of select. No. It's all across the board or not. Let's talk about Tucker Carlson. They really want to get Tucker because Tucker was one of their own. You see, he's a traitor. He's a quisling. Tucker was the guy who came along, and he was the guy who, oh my God, he was one of us. He was one of us. And you can't have that. And now he's dissing Darwin. Oh my God. I want to give you a wonderful link. This is this is Uncommon Knowledge. This is Peter Robinson. Let me give you this link here. And make sure you watch this, dear friends. It's excellent. And this has on 3 mathematicians. It's called The Mathematical Bases or Challenges to Darwin's Theory of Evolution. And it has David Berlinski, who is just one of the most wonderful. He's like in that Norman Finkelstein, not the subject matter, but never ruffled. Well, Finkelstein does, but he's brilliant in his expositions, and he's so evocative. So it's David Berlinski, David Galertner. He was the one. He was the he was the scientist or whatever, the professor at MIT, I believe, who was David Galertner. I always say Galertner, but it's Galertner. He's a computer scientist, artist. He was the fellow who had one of those Unabomber bombs sent to him. He lost. He has to wear a glove or something. He lost sensation or use of his hand. And Stephen Meyer is another one of these fascinating individuals. Stephen Meyer is I think he's a physicist, I believe. Let me see. He's very, very good. And let me just, before I give you this, I gave you that link right there. Stephen Meyer. He's an intelligent design advocate. I think he's a geophysicist in Colorado. Okay. These are people who believe that Darwin did not necessarily get it right. Sean Martin says her only gaffe was What's up with the Nixon pardon? Her only gaffe was what's up with the Nixon pardon. And I'm trying to think, maybe my mind is slow. Whose gaffe? Dare I say? I'm so sorry. Oh, was it Hillary? I'm not sure, but thank you very much. Thank you for that. Now, here's this is the way my sick mind works. We are told axiomatically that there's no such thing as Darwin, that Darwin does not exist, that Darwin is wrong. No. I had a brain fart right here. We are told that Darwin is ineffable, inerrant, that Darwin is not subject to being debated, that Darwin is perfect, that Darwin is the great. Okay. And that you never question Darwin. There's no intelligent design. Adam and Eve is complete nonsense. It's bullshit. And anybody who believes that is some radical yokel, and that's it. And the Neil deGrasse Tysons and the Sagans will tell you that. And there's no such thing as Darwin is it. Shut up. Intelligent design is stupid, and you can't be cool and believe in God and all that stuff. Well, when these folks came along, I said, ooh, I'm all ears. Why? Because it's the contrarian in me, the maverick. Anytime you can destroy or challenge something that is unchallengeable, I like it. That's why I used to kind of be interested in what were called the atheists, and now they don't really say anything. They're not very interesting. Now, how can they both be fascinated by atheism and proponents of intelligent design? Because they're radicals. And I love radicals. I love revolutionaries. I love people who believe in something. I would rather hear somebody that nobody wants to hear than something than the way it is. So Tucker Carlson is feeling around for his place. He is feeling around. He's looking for something. I think, and I'm sorry. I think he was absolutely gobsmacked and just pulverized by the Fox News thing. I really do. Did you ever know somebody who was divorced? Do you ever know somebody? You might be one. And was never, ever the same after the divorce. A woman or man who lost his or her sense of identity, faith. A woman or man who just, for lack of a better word, showed no ability to ever reconnect because they were hurt so bad. Do you ever know these people? They were just hurt so bad. They never want to date again. They never want to trust a man or a woman. They keep bringing it up, and they keep bringing it up, and they keep bringing it up. That's kind of Tucker. And it's something that it's like PTSD. I'm sorry. I don't want to belabor it, but to some people, I know more friends of mine who are for themselves. They have been forever affected permanently by a divorce or whatever. Raul Rodriguez says, listening to the three, my mind was refreshed. Yes. Thank you. Oh, I always want to hear what people have to say. I always want to hear, for example, Raul, thank you. But I always help somebody. I am irreligious. I'm not an atheist. I am not religious. I don't play golf. I don't speak French. What does that mean about my statement about French language or French people? I don't know. I don't play golf. I don't care whether you play golf. I understand millions play golf. Millions. I understand it's a very difficult sport. I don't care. but I would love to talk about people. Tell me your faith. And I've talked to so many people. I said, tell me, and I've asked the same questions about that as I have astrology. Tell me how. Okay, this is the earth. You and I are born on December the 25th. You were born in Iran, and I was born the other side in Duluth, Minnesota. Same date in 19, let's say 60. Same date, Christmas Day. You were born here. I was born here. And on that date, here is the earth. What was the position? What was rising? What was this? Whether Saturn? Please tell me how the course of my life, my direction, my path, my focus, my success, my whatever. Please tell me how this affects me. And they can't. They say, well, you see Saturn. No, I understand. No, I understand geoposition. But tell me how, for example, put it this way. I had a friend of mine who they said, well, they're going to, this is years ago, we're going to induce labor on so-and-so. It's going to be a cesarean. They're going to induce, and the baby's going to be born on whatever. I said, what's the baby sign? And they said, well, it'll be, I said, no. What was the baby's sign if the baby had been born naturally? God had intended that baby to be born, theoretically. Well, might have been a week earlier. Well, if the baby's on a cusp, there's a difference between Sagittarius and feces or whatever they are. So should you consult with an astrologer to find out when will be the best time for the baby to be born based upon the position of the stars and everything else, or the planets? They said, well, no, that doesn't make it. And my friend was just making it up as you went along, of course. I said, but what difference? Well, that's not when the baby's born. Well, that's what I told you. So when was the baby going to be born naturally? Well, we don't know. Well, then what difference does it make? It's when the baby is, babies who are born premature, their birth date says this. They go through life saying, I'm Libra. Had I been born the next day, I'd have been whatever it was. And they said, but you're mocking. I said, no, you told me that it matters when you're born. So if that's true, let's work, let's retro and reverse engineer this and pick the best date. Now, what's wrong with what I said? That's what you told me. And nobody can understand. Nobody can explain it to me. Doesn't mean that there's no such thing as astrology. It may mean that my friend just can't explain it to me. So when these folks come along and they say, no, Darwin is great to explain little things like the finch on one island. The finch, the bill of the finch has been adapted over a period of evolution in order to accommodate certain things. Obviously, the woodpecker and the certain hummingbirds with the proboscis and the tongue and whatever it is. But the problem that Darwin can, and what these gentlemen will say, the problem is to explain big things. Like you can look at geological strata and various evidence that is provided, and you will see that the Precambrian age, all of a sudden, boom, there's this explosion. No successive approximations, no, Darwinian, natural selection, no little tortoise shell that curves up to allow the tortoise to raise its neck higher. None of that. It's boom. And the only thing that can explain it is the intervention of something more powerful, more immane, more huge than just this gradual, successive, incremental, whatever it was. Do you hear how this thing works? Yes. It is sacrilege to speak against Darwin. And I think Tucker, in his desire to become more spiritual, maybe to feign a belief that maybe is not there, maybe to exaggerate this sense of God and Christian in them, he hit a nerve. And they're making it sound like, how dare he? And the scrum, once they get the word, he's crazy. He's speaking against Darwin. The mass congeals and the murmurations move, and the pitchfork and torch group all get together and say Tucker's crazy because you can't believe in God. God's crazy. Well, if you tell me that all those people are, I'm all ears. If you tell me that I can't hear that, I'm all ears. If you tell me that some student at Columbia or Emory can't wear a keffiyeh, that's it, or whatever, I'm on their side. I'm on you. I'm with you. Tell me I can't do something. Tell me that somebody's not cool. Tell me that that's old fashioned. I'm with you. I used to love the guy, and I never wanted to do this. I wanted to do it, but I didn't know how to do it. There was one time, I don't know where the hell I was. This was years ago. And this girl, remember when the goth look? She had black lipstick, a white face. She looked like Morticia Adams in black, and she had Doc Martens on, and she black shoes and black. And I wanted to say, you know what? I don't know what the hell this is, but God bless you for doing something, for being different. When Mrs. L was a young lass, she was just beautiful in terms of her eye for color and mixing. And it was at the time of Madonna, just very, very unique and had an eye for style. I like that. I like that. I like when somebody figures something out. And I like intellectual style too. And the next one is this fellow by the name of Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan decided to have on, and this was very interesting, this fellow who is of the belief, for reasons I shan't understand, but he is of the belief that we never landed on the moon. And oh, how great this is. I am all ears. Go on. Let's hear this. And he's on and he puts his, and Joe does something which, if you watch it, I think it's his newest one. And by the way, I told you I have nothing but respect for Joe. Absolutely. Bart Sibrel, or Sibrel, Sibrel. And I have a friend of mine I've known for years, and he has been, and in fact, he sent me this newest iteration, and he has been not a moon landing debunker, but a researcher. And he told me under no circumstances whatsoever, under no circumstances, did we or any human being ever land on the moon. My friend believes it to this day. Very smart man. And he doesn't necessarily point to this man only, but so the question is, number one, let me ask you, and this is something you have to understand. Just as I am irreligious, I don't really have an opinion. I mean, I don't have an opinion. When you ask somebody, do you believe in something and you don't know anything about it? Do you believe in sugar plum pumpkin, to quote Robert Klein? But do you believe in sugar plum pumpkin? No. Do you know what sugar plum pumpkin is? Have you ever studied sugar plum pumpkin? No. Well, how do you not believe it? I mean, I don't know what it is. Well, that's, I mean, you don't believe it. You've refuted it. No, I didn't refute it. You asked me if I believe it. Oh, okay, I believe in sugar plum pumpkin. Well, what the hell's the matter with you? I just made that up. There is no such thing. Well, you told me that. Well, that's kind of the way this thing is. I really don't have an. But as soon as you tell me, oh, we can't talk about that, I'm all in. So tell me about this. Why don't they want you to talk about this? Why are people so upset? Why are you considered crazy if you don't think we landed on the moon? I know it's a silly question, but why do they think you're crazy? I'm all ears. You just got my attention because whenever people collectively say that's the most ridiculous thing, really, really, okay, all right, let's hear about this. So what Joe did was very interesting, and I just did a video which will be dropping later, explaining the theory. And there's one thing that Joe did which is very smart. Joe, I think, realizes you are dead meat if you were to ever say that you agree or find merit with or whatever the idea of landing on the moon. You are dead meat. I could see that Wikipedia that go ahead, Joe, say it. We got it already written. We're just going to copy and paste. I can see a conspiracy theorist debunks the new. Oh, the moon. You're done. You're finished. You're through. You're done. Because Joe realized something a while back with that business with Spotify when he opined something about vaccines or COVID, and Neil Young threatened to pull the plug on Cowgirl in the Sand. Oh my God! Spotify says, "Now wait a minute." Oh my God. Are you kidding? Cinnamon Girl? No way. Yeah, who else? And Joni Mitchell. Jesus. Joe Rogan. I'm sorry. Joe, you're going to have to apologize. Oh, Stills wants to pull it. And then Nils Lofgren. Who? Remember that one? Who? Yanni wants to pull. Yanni. People just jumped on. Neil Young was dying just to be remembered. I'm going to pull my music on this. Neil Young? Yes. Young? Neil Young? Yes. Neil Young? Yes. Neil? Yes. Young. Why? Oh, yes. Ohio? Okay. So Joe realized I'm not going to do that because Joe learned a lesson. And they told Joe, look, Joe, you may think you're a big shot, but I'm telling you right now, we will squash you like a bug. If you ever veer, you mean nothing to us. Look at, go to, they say that cemeteries are filled with indispensable men. Well, so are you. And we've quashed some in the past, and we'll do it to you as well, my friend. You mean nothing to us. So Joe came out and he apologized. I think it was heartfelt. I think he was misunderstood. You understand this? Hang on. This is the Burgess Shale is the visual Rosetta Stone. Well, there you go, Raul. Leave it to you to know this, my friend. So what happened? So anyway, so Joe comes along and he has it. And thank you, by the way. So Joe comes along and he has this guy. And immediately Joe starts to play devil's advocate. And I thought, I know what this is. Okay. They got this poor guy to show up and Joe can go on the record and, point a few things out, but always be able to have under his belt. Now, wait a minute. I debunked. I didn't go along with that. I didn't go along with that guy with the moon. I didn't do that. Okay, you're right, Joe. Because if Joe had done that, that's it. He's done. He would have never lived that one through. Because you can't be a moon landing debunker, or you can't. You are a lunatic if you do this. You are a lunatic. You can't do this. We always use the expression, man has gone from landing on the moon and the human species takes place, even in the global south. They themselves say, I'm a member of the same race, Homo sapiens, that brought us landing on the moon. One small step for man. What's the Kennedy, the frequency, Kenneth? Or what's the Kennedy, Dan, rather? You can't do that. John Kennedy, lo and behold, right as 1970 approaches, Werner von Braun, the Nazi from paperclip fame, he says, look, guys, we got to hurry this thing up. We're running out of time. Okay. So lo and behold, in July, I remember that. We all remember that. I remember watching that. It was the biggest deal. And now you've got some guy who's going to come along and say, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Are you kidding me? And then you can ask these questions. Well, how come we haven't returned then? Does that prove anything? No, it doesn't return. Well, why? Did you see the? Do you mean to tell me that we went there and we had the collective computer firepower we had is less than that in an iPhone? Yeah, well, that doesn't. Even Elon Musk said, well, if we're going to go to the moon, we have to have all this supplies. What about the Van Allen belt? Well, I don't know about the Van Allen belt, but, I don't know about the Van Allen belt. Well, did we get around the Van Allen belt? Well, I don't know. Space. There was a. Did you ever hear? In fact, Joe, who's so good, brings up Starfish Prime. Did you ever hear this? Starfish Prime. And Starfish Prime was a high-altitude nuclear test conducted by the U.S., a joint effort of the Atomic Energy Commission and Defense Atomic Support Agency in 1962 from the Johnston Atoll. And it was a Thor rocket, carried a W-49 thermonuclear warhead, designed at Los Alamos. And a Mark II reentry vehicle was launched from the Johnston Atoll. And it was in the Pacific, and it has a yield of 1.4 megatons. And it was absolutely, the Starfish test was one of 5 high altitude tests grouped together as Operation Fishbowl, with the larger Operation Dominic. And it did an EMP. There was a blast that you cannot believe. Now, when you told people, if I mentioned to somebody, if I said, have you heard of Starfish Prime? Is that on the menu? They're going to say, there you go again. Because there are other people who are just prone to say, that's just crazy. Because they know nothing about this. Well, anyway, make a long story short, the issue was this in somehow trying to break through the Van Allen belt? I don't know. But here's the story. Number one, why is he the only person saying this? And you can say, well, he's not the only person. I think he's the only person saying this. Why? Do you know how many 9/11 scholars there are? Do you know how many 9/11 truthers they're called? Do you know how many? Yeah. Why this one guy? Now, there are others, of course, but here's my reason, and I'm going to give you a reason which makes the most sense, but it's the most unscientific reason why to argue against debunking the moon landing. You ready for this? Okay. It goes something like this. How many countries do you think dislike the United States? How many countries do you think would love to embarrass the United States? How many countries, including Russia, then, pre-Putin especially, but then they were kicking our ass. Sputnik, Yuri Gagarin. I think there was a woman. I think we put a chimp up. Laika, the dog. They were putting up goldfish. We couldn't get the damn rocket off the pad. Nothing happened. It was ridiculous. It was sad. And President Kennedy, I believe that by the end of this decade, oh shit, why'd he say that? And we're going to land the moon and bring him safely back home. Why'd you say that? And they did it. Let me ask you something. What if I went to any country, any of our multitudinous enemies, and I got with their science officials and I said, guess what? I have for you evidence that the United States never landed on the moon. Now remember, they're all going to know this, because if Bart knows this, if old Bart Sidrell or whatever, if he knows this, well, everybody knows it. If he knows it, if you've got countries with the best spy systems, do you think it's possible? If this were possible, that nobody would be saying, excuse me, yeah, we're calling bullshit on this one. Never happened. What? Never happened. Well, what do you mean it never happened? It never happened. Why? And then boom, 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 boom. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Isn't that odd to you? Unless some country has the goods on us and wants to blackmail us, which is ridiculous, because if we know it, they know it, everybody knows it. There's no such thing as compartmentalizing something this big. And forget the idea that, well, you can't keep a conspiracy theory in that long with these many people. Of course you can. Yes, you can. Yes, because it's compartmentalized. What I'm saying to you is simply this. There is something really interesting right now. There is something going on. And let me tell you one thing, which is even more important. We're now going back and we're correcting recent history. And the biggest con job ever, and it's the perfect template for J6, is Watergate. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, my friends, please be aware of what's happening. The Trump immunity case before the Supreme Court is fascinating, because right now, if you say, okay, if you don't want to grant Trump immunity, Biden, you don't have it either. And as soon as you get done, and assuming there's a DOJ or an FBI of some note, you're going to get exactly what you wanted. And as far as the New York trial, it's a joke. They're going to find him guilty. No New York juror is going to be at the holdout or holdouts. It ain't going to happen. It may not be unanimous. It may not be 34 counts, maybe half. But this is ridiculous. And when I see this thing on Fox News. Well, let's go right now to Jonathan Turley and Andrew. You think, well, I think the prosecution shot themselves in the foot. This is New York. What are you talking about? I don't care. They can stop it right now and they're going to give you a guilty verdict. What do you mean right now? There's no evidence. Guilty. Yes, I'm not going to be the guy who finds Trump not guilty. I don't want to be the person who was doxxed and tracked. Are you kidding me? Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about reality and being a realist. Do you hear what I'm saying? Being a realist. That's all. All right, dear and great friends, thank you so very much. Do yourself an honor, a pleasure, a something very, very important. Make sure you follow Mrs. L. Follow her immediately. In fact, this is what I want you to do right now. I want you to go right here. I'll make it very simple for you. I want to see immediately 500 new subscriptions to Mrs. L right now. That's the link. Just click it on, goes right to her subscription. That's it. Click that link. It goes right to the subscribe form. That's it. All right, my friends. Thank you. And to Raul and to Sean, thank you so much for your kindness and beneficence. We will see you this eve at 7 p.m. It's such a pleasure speaking with you. Remember, keep thinking. Never lose the spirit of the Constitution. And you may not like those students. You may think they're stupid and silly and Elon Omar and yeah, you're right. So what? The First Amendment is the First Amendment. Ladies and gentlemen, it's also Pat Kelpie. Give it up for Pat Kelpie. Pat, thank you so much for your kindness as well. All right, my friends. Thank you. Not hummus. I don't know what that means either. I like some of your great hummus, Hamas. Let's call the whole thing off. All right, dear friends, have a great and a glorious day. Don't ever change. I mean that sincerely. And please don't forget, subscribe to Lionel Nation. Lionel Nation, subscribe right now. Subscribe. Make sure, make sure, make sure. Because I got some great stuff coming up and you don't want to miss it. Until then, my friends, have a great and glorious day and comment as you see fit.